There is a silent power in a woman who is no longer desperate for attention. She walks through life not asking for love, but radiating it. She doesn't beg to be noticed, yet her presence makes the air shift. This is not mystery. This is mastery. The truth is, men do not chase noise. They chase calm. They chase what eludes them. They chase what reflects their own hidden longing for meaning. And most of all, they chase what they cannot fully understand. That is where you begin. Before you try to attract someone, ask yourself this: what do I magnetize? Is it chaos or clarity? Is it neediness or grace? Because energy does not lie. If your entire being is screaming, "Choose me," you have already given your power away. And the moment you hand your power to another, you become replaceable. But when a woman understands that detachment is not about ignoring someone but knowing you are already whole, everything shifts. She no longer clings to attention. She becomes the mirror where a man sees his best self reflected, yet never fully grasped. That is the psychological secret. People chase what gives them a taste of transformation, not what begs for validation. There is something hypnotic about a woman who knows how to be still in a world that is constantly yelling. She does not reveal everything at once. She speaks with her energy, not her ego. She listens more than she explains. Her silence becomes a language men are desperate to decode. Men don't fall in love with women who try to be everything to them. They fall for the ones who stay anchored in who they are. Because when you stop chasing, when you stop performing, when you simply breathe and own your space, that is when they begin to follow you, not just physically but emotionally and spiritually. Understand this: no man can complete you. And the moment you live like that's the truth, you become unforgettable. Not because you tried harder, but because you stopped trying at all. The chase begins the moment you return to yourself. When your focus shifts from impressing to expressing, from pleasing to being. That is not manipulation. That is transformation. And that is the deepest form of attraction. Not games, not gimmicks, but a woman who has mastered the art of being herself. Let others be loud. You be magnetic. Let others chase the spotlight. You become the light. And remember this: the most powerful chase does not begin with a man chasing a woman. It begins with a woman no longer running from herself. There was once a woman who sat in silence by a river, watching the water flow. She did not speak. She did not reach out. She simply observed. A man, curious, walked past her every morning. At first he didn't notice her. Then slowly, something chased stillness became louder than the world around her. He began to wonder what she was thinking. Why she didn't look up. Why she didn't need anyone to validate her presence. That woman was not playing a game. She had simply let go. And in doing so, she had become unforgettable. This is the power of non-attachment. It is a concept so simple, yet so rarely understood. Because for most of us, we've been conditioned to believe that the more we care, the more we give, the more we invest, the more someone will stay. But the truth is far more subtle and far more powerful. The moment you start clinging to someone, they feel it. Not just in what you say, but in what you don't say. Not just in your actions, but in the energy behind them. That invisible pull, that silent expectation becomes a weight, and eventually, they pull away. But when you let go, truly let go, everything changes. Letting go is not giving up. It is not indifference. It is not arrogance. It is the deepest form of confidence. Because it comes from a place where your worth no longer depends on anyone's response. It is the shift from needing love to being love. From chasing presence to embodying presence. And that shift is where the chase truly begins. Men are not wired to chase women who chase them. The moment you begin to orbit around someone, they become the sun, and you unconsciously become their satellite. This is not about playing hard to get. It is about becoming someone who is already complete. Someone whose life is full, whose energy is rich, whose peace is untouched by another's arrival or departure. When you practice non-attachment, you stop trying to control the outcome. You stop waiting for the message. You stop checking your worth against their behavior. Instead, you become rooted, centered, a woman who knows that love cannot be forced, chased, or begged into existence. It either flows or it doesn't. And if it doesn't, you do not collapse. You breathe, you bless, you. There is an undeniable allure in someone who is not waiting to be chosen. Think of the people in your own life who have pulled you in without effort. What was it about them? Was it how much they gave, or was it something less tangible? Their calm, their detachment, their depth. That's what we're drawn to, not the one shouting the loudest, but the one who carries themselves like a secret. The one who doesn't need us, but still welcomes us. The one whose happiness doesn't depend on us, and yet somehow we want to be near them more. That is the paradox of attraction. The more you grip, the more they slip. The more you release, the more they return. You see, every man is, at his core, seeking something beyond the surface. He may not say it, he may not even know it, but he's looking for someone who reflects a sense of wholeness, someone who doesn't mirror his chaos, but anchors his storm. And that kind of woman, the one who embodies non-attachment, doesn't just attract a man, she awakens him. She becomes the reminder of what stillness feels like, of what grace looks like, of what it means to love without losing yourself. But this power doesn't come from pretending. It comes from practice. It comes from learning how to sit in your own presence without reaching. It comes from turning inward, from filling your own cup so deeply that you forget you were ever waiting for someone to fill it for you. It comes from choosing your own peace over the temporary thrill of someone's inconsistent attention. When a man senses that you are no longer trying to make him stay, he starts to wonder what it is about you that makes letting go feel like a mistake. That is when the chase begins. Not because you made him chase, but because you no longer need him to. That absence of need creates space for him to choose you, not out of pressure, but out of clarity. The woman who walks in non-attachment is not cold. She is warm but untouchable, soft but not dependent. She can love deeply, passionately, vulnerably, but she never forgets that her soul is her own. Her happiness is her own, and her path is not shaped by whether someone walks beside her or not. So let go, not to punish, not to manipulate, but to return to yourself. Release the grip you've held around someone else's actions. Stop replaying the what-ifs, the should-haves, the maybes. Begin again. Step back into your own rhythm. You will find that your glow comes back, your magnetism returns, and slowly, those who once overlooked you will feel the shift, and they will look back. Not because you chased them, but because you didn't. Because the river never runs after the one who drinks from it. It flows, it nourishes, and it moves, and that is why they return. There was once a young woman who was always trying to be the perfect version of what she thought others wanted. She laughed a little louder, she smiled even when her heart ached, she responded instantly to every message, and always tried to be agreeable. She performed love like it was a stage play, carefully orchestrating every moment to be unforgettable. But still they left. Still they drifted. One day, tired and worn, she sat in silence, not because she wanted to, but because she had nothing left to give. And in that silence, something strange happened. The people who once ignored her began to return. Why? Because she had stopped performing. She had become presence itself. That is the power of the feminine aura. It does not chase. It does not beg. It does not decorate itself for attention. It simply is. And that being is the most intoxicating thing a man can experience. When a woman stops trying to impress and simply embodies the quiet rhythm of her own life, she becomes magnetic, not through effort, but through energy. You see, performance is exhausting. When you try to always say the right thing, wear the perfect dress, act like you're fine when you're not, it drains your soul. And worse, it creates an illusion that can't be sustained. Eventually the mask slips. Eventually the real you shows. But presence, true presence, never fades. It doesn't need fixing. It doesn't need strategy. It just needs awareness. Presence is when you sit with someone and they feel seen without you saying a word. It's when you walk into a room and the energy shifts, not because you wore red lipstick or high heels, but because your spirit speaks louder than your appearance. A woman rooted in her presence becomes unforgettable, not because she tried to be, but because she stopped trying altogether. Men are not moved by the woman who offers everything. They are moved by the woman who offers herself, fully, honestly, without performance. There is a stillness in her, a quiet fire. She doesn't need to be the loudest in the room, because her confidence is not volume, it's vibration. She is not proving herself. She is being herself. And that is what draws a man in. Because the truth is, men are constantly surrounded by noise. Expectations, applause, screens, people trying to win them over. But when they meet a woman who is at peace with herself, who does not need to be chased to feel worthy, they feel something they can't explain. They feel safe. They feel awakened. They feel challenged in a way that is not harsh, but holy. This is why you must stop performing. You are not a role. You are not an audition. You are not a mirror of someone else's desires. You are a frequency. And when your frequency is pure, when it is real, when it is undisturbed by the need to impress, you begin to attract from a different level. Do you know what happens when a woman sits alone in a cafe and reads a book with no care about who sees her? When she enjoys her meal slowly, when she takes her time walking, when she doesn't rush to answer the phone, she emits presence. She lives in the moment. She becomes rare, and what is rare is always remembered. Presence means trusting that who you are is already enough. That you don't need to convince, control, or capture anyone. That your natural expression, your gaze, your stillness, your truth is more powerful than any performance you could ever give. The feminine aura isn't about being passive or cold. It's about being grounded. You can still laugh, still flirt, still dance, still love deeply, but it comes from a place of fullness, not emptiness. You're not giving to receive. You're giving because it overflows from your soul. And when a man senses that your joy isn't dependent on his response, he leans in. When he feels that your presence is a gift, not a strategy, he becomes curious. When you're not reacting but simply being calm, whole, alive, he wants to know you, not just possess you. And that, my dear, is when the game changes. Let others perform. Let them rehearse their lines and put on their masks. You return to yourself. When you speak, let it come from truth, not technique. When you walk, let it be with softness, not urgency. When you look someone in the eyes, do it not to be chosen but to be real. This world doesn't need more perfect women. It needs more present ones. Women who aren't afraid to pause in the middle of chaos, who can sit in silence and not feel awkward, who can say no without guilt, who can say yes without fear. That is presence. That is power. And so let go of the need to be impressive. Let go of the role, the act, the plan. Trust that you, as you are, in your stillness, your softness, your strength, are already more than enough. There is no script to memorize, no lines to rehearse. The only thing you need to do is show up, not as who you think you should be, but as who you truly are. That woman, the one who has nothing to prove, but everything to be, is the one they chase. He sent her a message late one night, expecting the same response he had received 100 times before. But this time, there was no reply. Hours turned into a day into two. He checked again, nothing. For the first time in months, he felt unsettled, curious, strangely drawn in. What had changed? She was still the same woman, still graceful, still kind, but something was missing. The part of her that had always been there, always available, always ready with a reply, was suddenly absent. And in that absence, he realized what he had taken for granted. This is the unseen force of mystery. This is the seduction of silence. It is not cold. It is not a game. It is the echo of self-respect. In a world where everyone is constantly shouting to be seen, silence becomes a song. When everyone is always online, always responding, always reaching, the one who doesn't becomes unforgettable. Not because she is pretending to be busy, but because her life is already full. Because she does not need to offer her attention in order to feel valuable. And because she understands one truth very few do: desire thrives in space, not saturation. When you are too available, too responsive, too open, you become predictable. And predictability kills curiosity. Curiosity is the foundation of attraction. Not because you are trying to hide, but because you have the strength to hold back. Because you know not every emotion deserves expression, not every text deserves a response. Not every moment needs your energy. You do not disappear, you become selective. You do not boast, you glow in solitude. You see, there's something deeply alluring about a woman who is not constantly explaining herself, who doesn't post her every thought, who doesn't rush to update him on how she feels, what she's thinking, or where she stands. Instead, she allows her energy to do the talking. She understands that words can be manipulated, but presence cannot. Mystery does not mean pretending to be someone you are not. It means having enough self-worth to let others wonder, to let them lean in instead of always reaching out. It means understanding that your soul is not a product to be sold, not a performance to be consumed. It is a temple, and not everyone gets to walk through its doors. Think of it this way: a book that reveals its ending on the first page will never be read to the end. A song that screams every note leaves no room for pause, for breath, for depth. But a woman who lives with sacred pause, she creates rhythm, and in rhythm there is seduction. There is no need to post your whole life to be loved. No need to explain your silence. When he doesn't hear from you, let him wonder. Let him feel the weight of your absence. Because if your presence is always guaranteed, it loses its value. But when it's rare, when it's earned, when it's honored, it becomes a treasure. This does not mean you become cold or unavailable to punish. No, you become intentional. You stop oversharing. You stop rushing. You stop answering energy. that isn't aligned with your worth. You understand that your mystery is not a mask. It is the art of holding space without filling it too quickly. And when you do this, something remarkable happens. He begins to notice the details he once overlooked. The curve of your voice, the stillness in your eyes, the elegance in your distance. He begins to hear the silence between your words. And in that silence he begins to... Because men do not chase what is loud. They chase what makes them feel alive. What challenges them. What surprises them. What cannot be completely figured out. And that is the woman who understands the power of her silence. She doesn't reveal everything. She doesn't offer all of herself too soon. She lets love unfold like a slow-burning fire, not a match struck in desperation. Mystery is magnetic, not because it hides who you are, but because it honors the sacredness of your depth. When you're always available, your energy becomes common. But when you reserve it, when you hold it like gold, people approach with reverence, not expectation. And here is the truth that will change your life. Not everyone deserves to know you deeply. Your story, your scars, your softness, they are not owed to anyone who offers you half presence. You decide who receives your silence and who earns your sound. Because the moment you give everything, you leave nothing to be discovered. But when you hold something back, not from fear but from power, you create longing. That longing makes him think. That space makes him question. That pause makes him feel. You don't need to manipulate. You don't need to play tricks. You just need to trust your inner rhythm. You just need to understand that mystery is not a tactic. It's your birthright. You are not made to be understood at first glance. You are made to be unraveled like poetry, like a slow melody, like the night sky. So don't rush to be known. Let them earn you. Let them lean into the silence. Let them chase what they can feel but cannot fully hold. Because in the end, it's not the woman who gives everything away that is remembered. It's the one who knew when to speak, and when her silence said everything. There is a quiet moment in every woman's life when she realizes she's been giving her power away. Not in loud or obvious ways, but in subtle daily acts. Replying too quickly. Smiling when she wanted to stay silent. Saying yes when every part of her body whispered no. She wasn't seeking love, she was seeking permission. To be enough. To feel chosen. To be seen. But the truth is, you are not here to be chosen. You are here to choose. And that begins with reclaiming your energy. The same energy you've been scattering in all directions. The same power you've been handing over, piece by piece, every time you waited for a message, overanalyzed a word, or measured your worth by someone else's attention. That power is still within you. It is not lost. It is only misplaced. You see, emotions are energy in motion. They are not weakness. They are not chaos. They are tools. Fire in the wrong hands can burn, but in the right hands it gives warmth, light, transformation. And your emotions, your longing, your frustration, your desire to be seen, they are the raw material for something far more powerful than validation. They are the spark of creation. They are the invitation to come home to yourself. When you begin to practice emotional alchemy, you stop chasing, you stop reacting, you stop outsourcing your sense of value. Instead, you begin to listen to what your emotions are really trying to tell you. The sadness you feel when he pulls away, that is your soul reminding you that you need presence, not promises. The anger you feel when you're ignored, that is your intuition screaming that your energy deserves to be honored, not overlooked. But instead of drowning in those emotions, you learn to transmute them. You turn sadness into softness, not desperation. You turn anger into boundaries, not bitterness. You turn longing into inspiration, not attachment. Because the truth is, the person you are trying so hard to attract will never bring you peace if you haven't first found it within yourself. There is something unshakable about a woman who has alchemized her emotions. She no longer fears her own depth. She does not apologize for wanting connection, but she no longer trades her dignity for it. She feels deeply, but she does not spiral. She loves openly, but she does not beg. Her emotions do not control her. They guide her. That kind of woman cannot be ignored. Not because she demands attention, but because her energy speaks louder than her words. Imagine waking up and no longer needing someone to tell you that you're beautiful. Imagine walking into a room and not hoping to be noticed, but fully aware of your own presence. Imagine feeling hurt but not letting it consume you. Instead, using it to create, to express, to grow. That is emotional mastery. That is alchemy. That is freedom. The woman who channels her emotional energy inward becomes a force. She starts writing again. She creates, she moves, she reconnects with her body, she dances in her room, alone, not to be watched but to feel alive. She surrounds herself with people who nourish her instead of drain her. She takes the energy she once gave away and reinvests it into her own soul. And suddenly, they notice. Because energy does not lie. When a man feels your emotional balance, your steadiness, your softness without need, he feels safe and challenged at the same time. He begins to realize that you are not a storm he must calm, but a fire he cannot contain. You are not dependent, you are devoted to your own becoming. This is the secret that most will never understand. The more you chase validation, the further it moves away. But the moment you validate yourself, the world reflects that back to you. You don't need to be emotionless. You need to be emotionally aware. You need to stop judging yourself for caring too much and start asking why you care in the first place. Is it because you value him or because you've forgotten how to value yourself? The woman who remembers her worth no longer gives her energy to confusion. She does not obsess over mixed signals. She does not wait in limbo. She moves, she flows, she lives, she feels everything, but she is no longer ruled by anything. And in that space, something sacred awakens. She starts attracting people who match her energy, not just mirror her wounds. She attracts a man who doesn't just want her beauty, but her mind, her spirit, her presence. Not because she forced it, but because she became it. So if today you feel like you're losing yourself chasing after someone's attention, pause, breathe. Ask yourself, what part of me have I abandoned to be loved by someone else? And then gently, fiercely, come back to you. Feel everything. Cry if you must. Scream if you must. But then, rise. Redirect that energy. Use it to build something. To write something. To move your body. To speak your truth. To walk away if you must. Because that emotion, that ache, is not weakness. It is the fire calling you back to your power. Not to chase him, but to remember her. The woman you were before you forgot your own light. Before you asked for permission to shine. Before you thought your feelings were a burden. She is still there. And when you live from her, the one who channels, not chases, the world starts chasing you. She doesn't wait anymore. She no longer asks the question, am I enough for him? Instead, she looks in the mirror calm and centered and says, I am enough for me. That is the moment the chase begins. Not because she changed herself for the world, but because she returned to her origin, to the place where she needed no applause to feel worthy, no attention to feel seen, and no chase to feel desired. That is her power now. That is her peace. The world will always try to tell you that you must be more to be loved. More beautiful, more available, more silent, more pleasing. But what if you were never meant to become more for others? What if you were only meant to become more of yourself? When a woman steps into her authentic self, when she stops chasing and starts choosing, when she stops performing and starts being, something irreversible happens. The world around her begins to rearrange itself. Men who once didn't see her now feel her energy from across the room. People who once took her for granted now crave her presence. Why? Because she no longer plays the part of the seeker. She becomes the flame. And what does the flame do? It doesn't beg the moth. It simply burns. Some will be intimidated by that fire. Let them be. Some will call you distant, cold, hard to read. Let them speak. Your energy is not meant for everyone to understand. It is meant for the few who can sit with the weight of your presence without trying to control it. Those are the ones who will chase, not because they have to, but because they are drawn by something real, something rare, something untamed. You were never created to be common. You were not built to fit into neat little categories, to be liked by everyone, or to be easy to digest. You are the storm, the stillness, and the sunrise, depending on who dares to meet you where you are. And let this be known, your power does not come from being chosen by a man. It comes from choosing yourself again and again and again. No one can make you valuable. That value is etched into your soul, and the day you stop trading your crown for crumbs is the day everything begins to change. So to the woman listening, stop asking if you are enough. Start asking, is he enough for the love I carry, for the depth I bring, for the energy I pour? You are not just a moment in someone's life. You are a movement, a shift, a standard. And standards do not apologize. The greatest act of seduction is self-mastery. The greatest attraction is alignment. And the greatest chase begins when you stop running after love and start becoming love. You don't need to be louder. You need to be clearer. You don't need to be faster. You need to be still enough to hear your own voice. That voice will guide you. That voice will protect you. That voice will remind you that anything that costs your peace is too expensive. Any relationship that makes you question your worth is already beneath you. So carry yourself like the woman you were always meant to be. The woman who doesn't need to yell to be heard. The one who doesn't need to fight to be remembered. The one who doesn't need to beg to be kept. She keeps herself. She holds her own. And that right there is what sets her apart. People chase what they can feel but can't quite grasp. They chase what challenges them, what awakens something dormant. Be that woman. Not through tactics but through truth. Not through ego but through essence. Remember, lions do not roar at every passing animal. The sun does not rush to rise because someone doubted its return. You don't have to respond to everything, explain everything, fix everything. You just need to rise, quietly, consistently, powerfully. And when you do, they will notice. Because one day he will look around and realize the one he let go of wasn't waiting anymore. She was evolving, she was glowing, she was living. And that will haunt him, not because you were cruel, but because you were kind, rare, and gone. You were never meant to chase, you were meant to attract. And attraction doesn't happen when you become louder. It happens when you become realer. When you stand in your own light, unshaken. When your silence carries more weight than your words ever could. When your absence is louder than your presence ever tried to be. So now, rise. Not for him, not for anyone, but for the version of yourself that remembers who she is. That woman, the one who walks with calm, who owns her no, who honors her energy. That is the woman the world remembers. And never forget, the moment you know how much you're worth, you stop giving people discounts. Don't chase. Become. Be so rooted in your own energy that nobody's chaos can shake your peace. And most of all, you are not chasing him. You are chasing the woman you lose when you chase him. Return to her. She is waiting. And she is the one they will all chase in the end.